All right. Good afternoon. Good evening. Appreciate you guys joining. This is Coach Smith, your favorite coach. Love the game 24/7. Want to just jump on and be sure I give you some guys some recruiting tips this summer for you and your young athletes, right? For your young men, your young ladies that are pursuing their dream of earning an athletic scholarship to the school of their choice, man. So um, just want to be sure that you're doing some good things this summer, the right things this summer, okay, to help gain the exposure that you're looking for from college coaches, from college recruiters who are looking to, um, looking for some good athletes in the sport that you participate in at the next level, whether it be Division One, two, or three. So I just wanted to come on here for a few minutes and give you some tips from a coach, Coach Smith, and just share what's coming up. And one definitely uh, topic I want to talk about is what is your summer schedule looking like? Right, school is about to be out. The colleges are already out. Coaches in every sport, the colleges and universities have already have made plans and are ready to kick off their college camp in your sport. I know we got a few sports that's still happening right now, even though college is out. I've been watching for the past several days the track and field championships. You name it, Big Sky, Big 12, um, who else, Big 10, or whatever it is, the MEAC, right, with HBCUs. You name it. I've been watching quite a few track and field championships that's happening. I know we got the women's lacrosse that is happening right now. So even though college is out right now, there's still some college athletes that are participating in their sport. So some of those coaches in those sports, like baseball and softball, are still happening. But be rest assured, when you young athlete, you middle school and high school athletes get out of school here pretty shortly, those camps for those sports will be getting kicked off, and you need to have a plan on what you're going to do, parents, with your young athlete as they try to gain exposure with college coaches. And so I just want to come on here this evening and just share, hey, um, and to ask, what are you doing, parents, to help your young athlete gain exposure? Um, Hi, Charlotte. Appreciate you joining me. Um, and so I just want to just give you some quick little tips because you need to have a plan, parents, for your young athlete. You need to be ready to invest um, in your young athlete if they're serious about wanting to pursue, um, whether it be one, at least one sport, could be potentially two sports, right? I know I had the blessing of playing two sports while I was playing Division Two, NCAA Division Two football. So I had the blessing of being able to do that. And I know no matter what level you are, if you are a serious athlete, especially being a football athlete, I wanted to run track to be sure it helped me in my football um, greatness, or to help me perform well when I go to these tryouts and different things of that nature. When I got to the end of my 4 years in college and had the dream of pursuing pro football, so I made sure from seventh grade all the way through college that I kept running track to help me be a better football player, a better athlete, period. Because I believe track and field is a sport, one sport that will help elevate any athlete in any other sport that they participate in. That if they really wanted to do well in their specific sport, if it wasn't track and field, then track and field was something that you should do because it works every part of your body. But like I said, I just want to come on here and give you some quick little tips and give you some information on what's coming up with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7, and also what I'm going to be doing with offense defense as I finalize some things and working and coming on board with them with their football camps. But this information that I'm sharing, I know I talk sometimes about football or basketball, whatever, but the information and tips I give is for any sport. If you're a male or female athlete, and you have a dream of wanting to play college sports, and as I've shared on many occasions, I have 25 years of working in the financial aid office, right? The scholarships, whether you're an athlete or non-athlete, come through the financial aid because we have to manage that and monitor that. And we work with the athletes, we work with the coaches. On several occasions, I will talk with coaches and ask them, about recruiting and how their recruiting is going, or how certain players are looking. Or I spend time asking some coaches hey, where I work, are you kids, or are you doing more transfer report stuff? They try to just get an idea of where their head is, where I work. Okay, so I get those tips and things like that from the college coaches where I work. Okay, in the various places I work. But where I'm at recently, I will ask the coach because I know our basketball coach at the university where I am right now. He does mostly transfer reporting. We sign a lot of kids on the basketball team because we don't have football where I'm at right now. In North Carolina, we're the only state university that doesn't. North Carolina, everybody else has. So this is the kind of information that you'll be able to get from someone like me if you stay plugged in, if you subscribe. So let me just take some time um, to let you guys know to hey, hit that button, that subscribe button, share this information if you got someone that you know that plays sport, whether it's your own child or whether it's your niece, nephew, grandchild, whatever it may be, neighbor, and you know that they have a young person serious about this. Mario Martinez, I appreciate you. Can you play football? My days of playing football are over. But yes, I played at every level. I had the blessing of playing at every level, following an older brother who played at every level. And also I have a older son who played at every level. So if you want to know if I know football, I know football. I've been around the game since I was 7 years old and played up until I was 29 as I pursued and played pro football. Um, but I earned a college scholarship from Hard Knocks, learning this stuff on my own. I don't want you guys to have to learn it Hard Knocks. So that's why I have my website, lovethegame247.com. That's why I have my YouTube channel, to help you guys who may have a young person in any sport, whether it's football or not, doesn't matter. These recruiting tips are for any sport. And I work at the college. I worked at every level. I worked at the community college, state university, private university, and college. I work for the Department of Education in the state of Florida. Um, I'm here in North Carolina now working. So I've been in Florida and in North Carolina, 25 years of experience. So I know how the money works. I know how the scholarship works. And if you want to get a head start on that, then you need to be subscribing to Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7. If you want to know what it takes to earn a scholarship and how you need to train, I don't care what sport it is, right? There's a certain way you need to train during the off season, and there's a certain way you need to train during your season. Okay, and I know there's a lot of parents out there who have a lack of information, and I know as a man of faith, it tells me, if you have a lack of wisdom, you can pretty much know whether you're going to have some success or not if you don't have any wisdom. And I've gained my wisdom from others who came before me, and from my experiences of playing at a high level, in high school, college, and going to the NFL, and also arena football, and having others, around me, and having a son who I led and walked through everything I'm telling you is what I went through myself, and that I walked my son and several other kids that I had the blessing of coaching. And I coached football for 13 years. To answer your question, Maria, I don't play, but I've coached for over 13 years, and I've been around the game, like I said, since I've been 7 years old up until now. And so I want to be sure I get back in. And so I just want to give some tips. And like I said, this summer for you young athletes, right, in your sport, the colleges will be winding down their seasons. Track and field will be ending here shortly. I know lacrosse as well. The women's and men's will be in their championships. Baseball and softball is winding down as well, and they'll get into I think the sport that takes the longest is college baseball and college softball that goes into the World Series. It goes pretty um, further along in the month of June with the World Series in college, especially at the Division One, even at Division Two level and Division Three. They probably have about the longest season, and then track, can go a little bit longer after school is out as well in college. Because I played football in college and track, and I always got home later in the summer because we have our conference championship. We had the blessing of making it to our Division Two national. Um, some of had the blessing of doing it. I was my freshman year. I was an alternate on my college 4x1 team. My brother and several of the older guys were the main 4x1 team, but I was an alternate just in case somebody was hurt and got to travel and be an alternate on our national 4x1 4x100 team during my freshman year in college. So that was a great experience to have. But like I said, this video, man, I appreciate you guys. If you got any comments, like I have folks saying hello with Charlotte and Maria. If you got questions, comments, you know, I really enjoy that. If you got questions and tips, but I also want to take some time to share with you guys on free webinar that I'll be giving here in the next couple of weeks. Now, you'll be able to go to my website, lovethegame247.com, and register for the free webinar. In that free webinar, I'm going to give some tips and give some more background and information about who I am and what I've done, and then I'll share some more things from that will be coming from that free webinar. So I will announce that when you can go out there and register here in the next several, 2-3 weeks. I'll be putting that out there. So be sure you share that. Like I said, be sure to subscribe, right? Be sure to like, right? Be sure to talk to those that to go to Love the Game 24_7 on YouTube and give this information, because I'm telling you, I've gone to many football camps and parents. I'll walk up and I'll talk to people and ask and see where they are, with this recruiting you know, process that they're going through with their kid. In most cases, they're not getting really a whole lot of instruction from the high school coaches. And that's an issue. I talk to parents all the time for but like I said, that's why I'm doing this free webinar. You'll have an opportunity, to ask questions, face to face, all that stuff on Zoom. We'll have a virtual live Zoom webinar that I'll be giving out, and you have an opportunity to register for that. And that's, I want to be sure folks get registered, because it's going to be limited um, seating, right? Limited access for that. I can, have so many. If I have to do 2 webinars, I'll do that if it grows. Interest is there. But I definitely know it should be, because I know that a lot of parents are struggling. I just had a week or so ago, just met with a father and son in Ohio. I met a gentleman 2 years ago on a plane, traveling, and seeing my grandkids. My son, who plays pro football, lives in the DFW area, and I was on my way back home to North Carolina. I met this gentleman from Ohio, and actually, I think I was going to Dallas when I met him, but we had a chance. We've been in contact via email over these past, couple of years when I met him. And his son is an offensive lineman, pretty good looking young kid. And he's going into his, I believe, his junior year or senior year. I can't remember which one. But I told him it's vital that he gets to camp. And he does some 1-day camp, and he's been doing it. And his father reached out. He he wanted some consultation, and he paid for the service of having some more detailed assistance on helping his son with his recruitment. He admitted he had no clue. Even talked to the coach. I mean, the coach they did a little something, but um, during our consultation on Zoom, he said the information I shared with him was much more helpful, much more understanding, and it was something that he didn't get from the high school coach. Even the son said the same thing. I met with the father and the son, and so that was it was a very good meeting, because I always want to be sure I help him, lead him in the right direction to help young athletes gain exposure, because I want you to fulfill your dream, right? That young person's dream. That's what I do in financial aid. We help find the money, and help people understand how to become eligible for money, whether it be for grants, scholarships, whatever it may be, even loans if they have to. Worst case scenario. So that's what I do on a daily basis, and make sure those students stay eligible and do what they're supposed to do to maintain that aid that they're given to help pay for their education and to fulfill their dream of earning a degree, right? And so that's what it's all about. And I have a love for sports, okay? And so that's why, I love just watching sports in general. Of course, my favorite sports are football and basketball and track and field, and I watch it at every level. But I also watch lacrosse, women's lacrosse. I watch some men's lacrosse. I watch baseball. Like I said, I was just watching track and field championships. I peek a little bit at the softball and baseball games as well. Um, but yeah, I just love sports. Love going to sporting events, and I love doing what I can to help young athletes and parents, understand how to help you or give you some tips in the recruiting to be sure your young athlete gets the exposure that they deserve to help them fulfill the dream of playing college sports. Right? Because I know um, how great that feeling that is to be able to compete and make a team in in training and all that. So you're going to get, like I said, on this free webinar that I'll be announcing and releasing the information about how to register at my website, lovethegame247.com. Here for the next several weeks, I'll be sharing more of that, just as I did with my football camp that I had for elementary and middle school kids here in North Carolina. Excuse me, I had almost 100% um, uh, that showed up, right? 36 kids registered, and 34 showed up. So almost 100%. It was a great turnout. I think the kids learned a lot. I learned a lot. There's some things I'm going to do a little bit different next time, and maybe hopefully it'll grow bigger. And I want to be sure these young athletes in football, because that's what I do mostly, is for the football camp, and then but also give you information about camps as well, or whatever sport it is that you're playing, and how you need to go about finding those camps in your young athlete sport, whether it be basketball, whatever it be, soccer, doesn't matter. Okay, but you definitely need to get your young person in the college camp this summer at the colleges and universities. But you got to put a plan together. Okay, you got to do that. So if you want some more detail, and if you desire to have some one-on-one consultation, right, and coaching on it, right, because I know personally how hard it was for me to learn and figure all this out and do it on my own and not have my mom who passed away from cancer. My mom working, busy with work, trying to raise her kids, um, and after losing my father, so my mom didn't know much about sports and any of that. She supported, of course, the best she could, but um, didn't have much help from high school um, head coach. I had to do a lot of stuff on my own, and I did a lot to help my friends and teammates do the same thing to be sure that they uh, continue to have that dream of wanting to go to college and play college sports, college football or basketball, whatever it may be. But we didn't have a lot of help from my coach. Even when recruiters were coming around, he wasn't helping us. And so we had to do a lot of that work on our own, and a lot of it with my class or guys that I grew up with. I was doing most of the hustling and trying to be sure that they stayed focused and knew that we could all go and play ball somewhere and play college ball. And some of us had the blessing of going and playing together. So that was also great, a great opportunity to be able to play with some of my high school buddies that I grew up with. Um, and so that's what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you all of me and everything I'm doing about it. Get you this free webinar so you can hear and learn more about who Coach Smith is and Love the Game 24/7 and what I will be doing with that and other events and not just webinars, but also events where we'll be giving away scholarship. We'll be raising money and giving scholarship money away to help keep young people encouraged about wanting to go to college, whatever it may be, whether it's a traditional 2 year, 4 year, right? College degree they're pursuing, or even if it's a trade school, or even if it's a nursing school, it doesn't matter. I'll be putting together some conferences, um, probably in Florida, here in North Carolina, and Texas. Um, and so it'll be more news about that. But like I said, I'll be raising money to give scholarship money away to help these young people keep their hope of desiring to go to college. But definitely, I'm always going to push the that sports model, because you'll never go wrong with, if you are an athlete. And that's why I try to, especially the girls, I think the girls have a hard time staying encouraged to stay in their sport a lot of times. And when they run into some things, they get frustrated. And my wife was just talking to some friends of ours, um, and their daughter is Division I athlete, and she's very smart, and she just feels like she's tired of it, and she has one more year. But it's like, look, you got to do what you need to do to pay that bill, right? You don't want to have to borrow, you know, 40, 50, 60, or $80,000 in an academic year because you're tired of playing the sport. You got to buckle down and do what you need to do to use that scholarship because she's on full track scholarship and she's a great athlete. So I told my wife to tell her friend to, have her look up the young athlete, the young, I know she Carrie, and I'm trying to think of the other girl that won the 200 meter. Can't think of her name right offhand. But she was a Harvard graduate, and I think she was a medical student, like this young lady is. That my wife is really good friends with my wife, and I just said, just tell her to stay encouraged. I know, she got a new coach, and that's what I'm telling you guys. That's why you need tips from a coach. Okay, and some of these coaches, even though they're head coaches at high school or coaches in college, they got issues too, and sometimes they put those issues on kids, and they need to be. Um, you might need to have a conversation with that coach about why your young athlete, not to tell them about how to program. This young lady is a high performing athlete, and sometimes coaches, man, can kill a young athlete's passion to want to do the sport, and that's not good. Okay. I hate hearing stories like that when parents are frustrated, but you got to work through some stuff, right? And as parents, you got to be sure that they're mentally okay, right? Because you don't want things happening, you know, with your young person because the coaches, is not being the type of coach that they should be, not a positive influence. They're a negative influence. And this young lady feels like the new coach is track coach that she has is just not helpful to her mentally. And so, sometimes parents, I know, as an adult, but still as a parent, you have to take care of things for your athlete or for your student at the college level, right? And you still have some responsibility. And I would have a conversation with that coach to find out, why is my daughter or my son feeling a certain type of way? You're a new coach. What is it that, you know, um, that you're bringing to the table that's causing my young athlete to feel this pressure or that you're putting on them is unnecessary. Because it probably is unnecessary. There are some people who just because they're coaching at the top level don't mean they're a good coach, right? Doesn't mean they don't have bad communication skills themselves, right? Some of these people got jobs, however they got the job. Somebody they know, and that's cool. But if you're going to bring somebody on that I want to be sure that they can do the job. Whether it's a friend of mine or somebody I know that have the skills and experience, I want to be sure they know how to communicate with young people, right? And not cause them to be stressful or whatever. That's not good. As a coach, you're just like a parent, right? And a parent would not want to put stress. So, that's why I try to tell some of these young athletes and parents, you need to be sure you work at having some, closeness with your family and you communicate and you let people know how you're feeling, good or bad. Keep communication. And parents, you make sure you tell your young athlete to keep communicating. Because there is pressure to some of these athletes, um, to perform well. And you got to stay connected. So these are some tips and things I want to give you. But this friend of my wife, she was just sharing how the daughter is just ready to quit track, and she's a top athlete at a major university, Division One. Um, and so, I just told her to tell her friend to encourage her daughter not to give up because um, she's serious about her academics and wants to be a doctor in medical school, and that's great. But right now, her track and field is paying that bill. We need to make sure that bill gets paid. So whether you got to transfer somewhere else, and run track and get a scholarship, consider that. But or stay where you are. And as a parent, I need to go have a conversation with the coach to find out why my daughter or my young athlete, male athlete or whatever is having some issues when you're a new coach when she wasn't having these issues before you got here. Sometimes you have to do that as a parent, even if they're in college, right? Because we got to take care of our young people. If the coach is not going to be responsible, a responsible adult, and do that. And so I just want to just take time to share that. So, but you athletes got to understand this is what's paying the bill. And if there's an opportunity for you to use that sport to get that full scholarship to pay for the education, you do what you have to do, right? Um, but we also got to be sure we go communicate and have a discussion. And if you have to bring your parent in or guardian at your another coach that seems to understand what your young athlete is dealing with, you do that. But never not communicate with the parents and let them know what's going on. Always communicate with the parents. Um, And if a coach is not doing that, mom and dad, then you need to contact the school and get down to what's really happening and why this coach is not coaching like they should, or causing stress to your student athlete. But yeah, I'll be doing this webinar, free webinar, about it when it's time to register for that book. Iron out some things, get squared away. But yeah, it's gonna be a free webinar, tips from a coach, how you know, you'll learn what I did and how I got my kids education paid, where me and my wife we paid very little money for their education, right? Because of the things I knew to do. Being a coach, being a former athlete who earned the scholarship, who's been through the recruiting process, and helping a lot of young athletes. And so I'll be sharing, more about that, my experience, um, some things that I'll be able to provide, assistance in this free webinar to be sure we help you and your young athlete gain the exposure that they need to have to help them in their recruiting process to catch the attention of college coaches and college recruiters in their sport. Right? That's what it's all about. At whatever level it may be, give you the tool, right? Give you what it is that you need to do, how to prepare yourself in your sport, how you need to be trained, right? All those types of things. So we'll get more into that as I release this information. And like I said, you'll be able to go to my website, lovethegame247.com, and register for the free webinar that I'll be releasing more information about here over the next several weeks or so. But I appreciate, man, you guys joining me. Hit that subscribe button, man. I want your comments. Hit that bell so when Coach Smith goes live, you get the notification when Coach Smith is live. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there. But I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But thanks for jumping in and popping on YouTube channel, on the live YouTube channel. I appreciate everybody who took some time. But if you want to earn that scholarship, young athlete and parent, if you need some more information about what it is that you need to do, how you need to do to help your young athlete gain exposure, right? You want the tips, right? To help your young athlete to gain the exposure that they need in their sport from college coaches, then you need to be on this free webinar over the next several weeks that I'll be releasing, so you can register and get you and your young athlete on the webinar, on the free webinar, to hear from Coach Smith, tips from a coach. That's what it's all about, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to meeting you and your young athlete, and helping them gain that exposure from college coaches and college recruiters, right, so they can earn that scholarship. And so I appreciate it. I'm excited about it. So look for more news to come. Okay, more to come. It was great. I took some time today to watch Michael Vick at Norfolk State, right? And back in his neck of the woods in Virginia, where he grew up. Allen Iverson and Tyrod Taylor. He had a lot of people out there, congressmen and senators, people who are supporting him because of his story, Michael Vick's story, and where he came from and how he turned his life around after his hiccup of spending time in prison for uh, the dog gambling ring that he had. It's great to see how he turned things around and the support he had from Andy Reid, his former coach, and, and get an opportunity to get back in the league playing. He also had Tony Dungy that was very supportive of him. But it's great to see Michael Vick using his influence, right, in the game, in the sport, and going back to Norfolk State to try to do some things like what Deion did at Jackson State, right? And I know Deshaun Jackson is doing the same thing, coaching as well. And it's exciting to see these former greats are willing to go and help turn some programs around and get them in the right direction. And from watching that video and seeing his spring game, man, some of you guys who may not be getting heavily recruited, but you're a good athlete and you can help turn the program around, you need to get in with Michael Vick and get over there at Norfolk State and get yourself a scholarship or go to football camp or something and show them what you're about, right? I believe they're Division II at Norfolk State. I'll double check on that. They're a high level program, high level conference. And if you're good enough, man, I don't care whatever sport you play. If you're good enough, and there's a pro level to get to, and you do what you need to do, and you have a great video, then you're gonna get the opportunity, right? But sometimes you guys may, you might lose focus, and sometimes you young athletes need somebody to help guide you, somebody to help mentor you, to help keep you focused, right? And so that's what Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 is all about, and helping you young athletes and you parents learn how to navigate through this, and how you need to help your young person be successful at every level that they reach. Okay, and so I'm excited about doing my part. Make sure you do your part. Make sure you get registered when I release the date, right, and the time, and you get on the website lovethegame247.com. You get on here and you subscribe to my YouTube channel, right, and you hit that bell. And you share some comments, share some questions, all those different things. But hey, I look forward to meeting you guys in the free webinar here soon, and I just hope that you just share this information with others that you know who need help as well. But I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. I'll probably take some time later to jump on my IG channel, Coach Smith 27 as well, and share this news just like I did here on YouTube. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your weekend, and appreciate you jumping on and getting tips from a coach to help your young athlete gain exposure in their recruiting process so they can earn the scholarship, right, and pay for that education. And I'm going to teach you what I did with my two sons. All right. That's what it's all about, man. But thank you. All right. And I appreciate it. But if you didn't get a chance to hear all of this, you can jump over to Coach Smith 27 on IG, and I'll be logging on over there shortly to have a similar discussion. Have a great weekend. Take it easy.